When Asisat Oshoala shared a post from Mecca with the caption Jummah Mubarak, it was more than a casual social media update. It was a statement, a reflection, and a reminder of who she is beyond the world of football. For years, the world has known Oshoala as one of the greatest African female footballers in history, a striker who has conquered England, China, Spain, the United States, and now Saudi Arabia. But beneath the goals, the trophies, and the celebrations lies a woman of faith, born into a Muslim family in Lagos, whose spirituality remains an integral part of her journey. Her decision to publicly share her moment in Mecca tells us something deeper about her identity, that in spite of the fame, the criticism, the weight of expectations, her roots in Islam continue to guide her path. Oshoala's story begins in Ikorodu, Lagos State, Nigeria, where she was raised in a devout Muslim household. Her father, often referred to as Alhaji Oshoala, is a practicing Muslim, and her upbringing was marked by the rhythms of prayer, fasting, and family devotion. Coming from a polygamous home, Asisat learned from an early age about discipline, respect, and sacrifice. These lessons, deeply rooted in Islam, became the foundation of her personality. While many young girls around her were directed toward traditional paths of education and domestic roles, Oshoala found herself drawn to football, a passion that often clashed with cultural and religious expectations. In her community, the idea of a Muslim girl playing football professionally was unusual, and her father initially resisted. Yet, with the support of her grandmother, Oshoala pushed forward, keeping faith at her side even as she broke barriers. As her career began to blossom, so too did the voices of criticism. For some in the Muslim community, Oshoala's lifestyle as a professional athlete did not align with their expectations of modesty. The football kit itself became a subject of contention, with critics pointing to the clash between the fitted jerseys and the Islamic standard of hijab. Others questioned her celebrations on the pitch, her social media presence, or her endorsements, claiming they showed a side of her that was not fully in line with the values of an upright Muslim. Even her father, at one point, was reported to have expressed disapproval of some of her public celebrations, highlighting the tension between tradition and the reality of being a global star. Yet, through it all, Oshoala never denied her faith. Instead, she lived it in ways that were deeply personal, away from the loud judgments of critics. Islam, like all religions, emphasizes sincerity of heart and intention over outward show, and for Oshoala, her journey has been about balancing the demands of a professional career with her devotion to God. Her critics may not always understand her choices, but her life demonstrates that faith is not about perfection, it is about striving. It is about continuously returning to God, regardless of where life takes you. This is where her recent Mecca post carries so much weight. By publicly observing Jummah prayers in Mecca, Oshoala reminded the world that faith remains at the center of her story. For Muslims, Jummah is not an ordinary prayer, it is a congregational act that holds special importance, a time to gather, reflect, and submit to God collectively. To perform this act in Mecca, the holiest city in Islam, carries even more significance. Millions of Muslims worldwide long for the opportunity to stand before the Kaaba, to pray in the sacred mosque, and to connect with their Creator in such a profound setting. For Oshoala to not only experience this but also share it openly with her fans shows a woman who is proud of her spiritual life, unafraid to blend her identity as a footballer with her identity as a Muslim. Faith has always shaped the way Oshoala approaches her career. The discipline of Islam mirrors the discipline required of an elite athlete. Fasting during Ramadan, for example, demands self-control and resilience, qualities that translate onto the pitch. Patience, or sabr, is another virtue taught in Islam, and it is one that Oshoala has displayed countless times, whether in recovering from injuries, enduring criticism, or pushing through difficult moments in her career. Gratitude, or shukr, is also central to her outlook. Time and again, Oshoala has dedicated her victories to God, her family, and her community, reflecting a mindset that does not take success for granted. In an era where fame often leads to arrogance, her humility speaks volumes about the grounding power of her faith. Her move to Al Hilal in Saudi Arabia in 2025 added another dimension to her spiritual journey. While most headlines focused on the transfer itself, leaving Bay FC in the United States for one of the biggest clubs in the Middle East, there was a quieter story unfolding in the background. Playing in Saudi Arabia is not just about football. It is about living in a culture where Islam is not an occasional observance but the daily fabric of society. The calls to prayer echo through the streets 5 times a day. Ramadan is observed at a national level, and mosques stand as central pillars of community life. For Oshoala, being in such an environment offers her something Europe and America could not: the opportunity to immerse herself fully in her religion without compromise. Living in Saudi Arabia means she now has regular access to Mecca and Medina, the 2 holiest cities in Islam. Where once a pilgrimage required international travel and planning, Oshoala can now make those journeys more frequently. Her Jummah Mubarak post is likely just the first of many moments where her fans will see her faith visibly reflected in her new environment. Beyond that, playing in Saudi Arabia positions her as a role model not only for African girls but also for young Muslim women in the Middle East, who see in her a living example that one can pursue professional sport at the highest level while remaining rooted in faith. But while her new environment may support her religious life, the challenges of balancing faith and fame remain. Public figures are always under scrutiny, and for women, especially women of faith, that scrutiny is even more intense. Every choice, every picture, every word can become a point of debate. Yet Oshoala's story shows that it is possible to hold on to authenticity in the midst of all this. By sharing her moments of devotion, by proudly acknowledging her roots, she pushes back against the notion that athletes must abandon spirituality to succeed. Instead, she shows that faith can be a source of strength, peace, and direction even on the biggest stages. Her critics may continue to argue. They may continue to point out areas where they believe she does not fully align with their expectations. But Oshoala's life is a testament to the fact that faith is not about living up to the standards of other people, it is about living sincerely before God. Her decision to stand in Mecca, to pray, and to say Jummah Mubarak to the world is proof that her faith is active, alive, and central to her life. No amount of criticism can erase that. For her fans, there are lessons to take from this. First, that faith is personal. Each person's journey looks different, shaped by unique struggles and circumstances. Second, that balancing modern life with spiritual identity is difficult but possible. Oshoala represents what it looks like to be both global and grounded, to be successful without losing your soul. Third, that environment matters. Being in Saudi Arabia may allow her to nurture her faith in new ways, reminding us all that where we live and the communities we build affect how we practice what we believe. And finally, that success and faith are not enemies, they can complement one another. Faith provides perspective, reminding us that victory is temporary but spirituality is eternal. Asisat Oshoala's story is still unfolding. At Al Hilal, she will no doubt score goals, win matches, and continue to add to her already historic legacy. But beyond the pitch, she is also living another kind of story, the story of a woman of faith navigating the complexities of fame, culture, and devotion. Her recent moment in Mecca is just one chapter, but it is a powerful one. It reminds us that behind the headlines and the highlights is a woman seeking balance, striving toward God, and choosing to make her faith visible. For millions who look up to her, especially young Muslim girls across Africa and the Middle East, that image is invaluable. It says that you don't have to hide who you are to achieve greatness. You can wear your faith proudly, even in a world that sometimes misunderstands it. You can celebrate your victories on the pitch while still bowing your head in prayer. You can be both an icon of football and a servant of God. And so, when Asisat Oshoala wished her followers Jummah Mubarak from Mecca, it was not just a greeting. It was a declaration. It was a statement of identity. It was a reminder that while football may be her profession, Islam is her foundation. For her, the journey of faith and football continues side by side, and perhaps, in Saudi Arabia, the balance between the two has finally found its perfect home.